This is TWiT.
Google and Match Group. Okay, so we talked a few weeks ago about the kind of growing brouhahas. I love that word. Any chance I get to say that word,
it's a good word.
You know, go ahead and throw it in there. Around Google billing and how Google basically has the requirement for developers to use Google's billing system right now. Although, you know, you still have a few weeks, I think, before they totally shut things down on your app in the Play Store if you're not using their billing and you're using your own billing. So it's like the rule is being enforced right now, but here in a couple of weeks, things are going to get ugly because people are going to get removed if they're not. Well, a couple, you know, we've talked in the past about a few examples, Bandcamp being one of them. Match Group is another. They own, you know, sites like Tinder, OkCupid, a couple of other dating apps, who are basically coming back and saying, "Hey, this isn't fair. We don't agree. We don't co-sign Google. We want to be able to use our own payment methods, and we, you know, want to refuse to pay to use yours." Problem is, if they refuse to use Google's, of course, they run the risk of their apps being completely removed from the Play Store, and especially on apps like these with millions upon millions of users, they don't want to risk that, of course. So Match Group filed a complaint against Google in court for, quote, strategic manipulation of markets, broken promises, and abuse of power in requiring Match Group to use Google's billing system to remain in the Google Play Store. So that's their charge. They said that Google is abusing its market power, and that's, you know, in a way that forces developers to use its billing system. And of course, along the way, using the billing system means it has a price tag. 30% of the profits go in Google's pocket. Google has come back with some of these who are raising objections, especially if they have large amounts of users, and saying, "Okay, we'll take 10%. How's that?" And that's, you know, not good enough, as you know, at least in the case of Match Group. Match Group requested a preliminary injunction to keep its app on the Play Store during this court battle. And this week, Google agreed to, at least temporarily anyways, continue to allow Match Group to use its own billing system. There were some attached arrangements with that, like like Match Group has to keep something like $40 million in escrow while all of this is sorted out. But the court case is set for April 2023. So this just kind of shows that, you know, a little bit of resistance is kind of putting some chinks in the armor of Google and its plan to move everybody over to the billing system. And I can't help but think that in light of this, there's going to be more of this, because this kind of, in some ways, shows a weakness on Google's side. I don't know. What do y'all think? What do you think, Huyen? Because, I mean, this obviously, and you've talked about this before. You've talked about how this impacts developers, but what do you think about that, like, leeway that seems to be happening here?
Well, it's so confusing because, you know, with Match Group and with like other, like Epic and Deezer are part of this like coalition for app fairness, which is like a bunch of folks saying like, hey, like we want to support the Open Markets Act, which is like in Congress right now, which is about kind of loosening the grip that Apple and Google have on app stores and allowing for more third parties. Like, it's just, I think this is a good thing. It's so contentious, like watching the two of them kind of like give their own perspectives on like what this means. It's a little confusing though, because like on top of that, we have like Spotify in the pilot program of the user choice billing. So yeah, like there's some choice, but it's so confusing to me. It's so freaking confusing to me. I want to see some progress on this, and I'm kind of with Match Group on this one, and I like seeing people push back, and I'm glad to hear about things like the Open Markets Act, I think that's what it's called, and the Coalition for App Fairness kind of pushing back on it. But it's just freaking confusing. It just feels like a landmine sometimes, especially when you're a smaller developer. Yeah, you know, and without, you know, at an established company with their own legal department to catch these things and handle these things. It's just a confusing, you know, minefield of like, how do we not get removed from the App Store on top of everything else that people have to worry about normally, like other stipulations and rules that we have to follow every day. So, I mean, I guess good on Match Group for fighting the good fight. And I guess in a sense, like, I wouldn't say good on Google, but it kind of does show that there is room for the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like that Google's like, fine. Like we'll put a hold on your ban because obviously Match Group and apps like Tinder are huge and very visible apps. So I'm for a scrappy fight with this kind of thing because I mean, obviously there's a lot of big companies and a lot of big subscription, especially a lot of big like subscription-based companies that are generating a lot of like revenue that are not happy with the way things are. So good. Good. Let's keep it going.
I hate to be the devil's advocate here, but it's like I don't know. I feel like and I'm not, by no means am I really defending Google, but I guess I am defending Google because it's like their policies are their policies and companies can choose to play or not, right? You have that choice, right? Like, I don't know. I just like, it doesn't, I feel like it shouldn't have to be a fight. You know, which is just above everything, right? Like you never want it to come to it being a fight and that sort of situation. But at the same time, Google doesn't. I mean, like Jason, I think to your point where it shows a weakness or whatever, just because it's you know, like Google's allowed to set their own policies, and companies can choose whether they want to play them or not. You know, so
I totally get it. I also don't like the fact that, I mean, the way that things work with Google, especially the Play Store, is that I think if it was like equal treatment for everyone, I'd feel a little bit less stinky about it. But the fact that it's 30% off the top, and hey, if you're a large partner, then we kind of have to listen to you, or we'll give you a better rate if it's worth our time to. So that kind of feels icky to me.
I totally
agree.
I
think it's fair. Like I think there is like,
that's fair. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, no, I mean, but I get what your point is, Ron, too, is like, this is their, I mean, they made this, they're making this space. It's like their technology. So I get it, but I don't know. It's also kind of a little bit of it's like a cool kids table, I guess. Like,
yeah,
and if you're not part of the cool kids table, then 30% please. Otherwise, hey, like Spotify and stuff, we'll give you like 10%, 5%. I forgot what the Spotify.
I think it was 10%. Yeah,
it was like 10%. I was like, hey, that's like way better than 30%. Whereas the rest of us here who are trying to make it on our own are a little more. I can't think of a good phrase for this, but like being charged 30%. So it's not easy, and I don't like that. And especially being at a place where we are a partner, I kind of like my employer is and Trello has been like a partner in the past. Like I can see like where that's beneficial, and I'm like, well, it's a good thing we're a partner. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling that, oh, thank goodness I am, but think about all the thousands of developers that aren't. So,
yeah. And I want to thank real quick here, Scooter X in the chat room, who also posted a link to a story yesterday that Epic Games Bandcamp also temporarily won the right to use its own payment system. So this is, they're kind of happening concurrently. These two cases are happening simultaneously. Same issue, different companies, and in both cases, they are given the ability to continue to use their own payment system, at least in the near term, until this all plays out in court.
I still think I will not get used to Epic Games' Bandcamp.
Yeah, I know.
That's
a hard one. That's a hard pill to swallow.
Well, what's so funny is that talking about that is that like as somebody I've used Bandcamp for years.
Yeah, I love it.
I don't know if we talked about it on the show or not, Jason. But when Epic bought Bandcamp, had a great conversation with a bunch of friends of mine about it because everyone was like, "Why is Epic buying Bandcamp?" and blah blah blah. But then someone pointed out that a couple of people pointed out that their kids discover new music in Fortnite and in Roblox. Right. And so like the fact that there are music events in those games now, like it makes sense that Epic would, so the Epic Bandcamp acquisition did make more sense. And also given what, Epic is doing in the Play Store and Apple and stuff like that, having another source of e-commerce revenue, kind of thing is interesting. So I don't know. That's funny. So I don't know. It just makes me laugh.
Yeah, totally.